You have to think that my time is precious. I don't want people to waste it. So if they didn't spend 5 minutes, the effort it takes to actually read my job spec, I certainly don't want to spend any minutes on their application. Hey, what's up everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Jack from emailsthatsell.com.
Have you ever thought about hiring someone to help you with your cold email process? Someone who can execute some repeatable task, only to realize a bit later that this will take a lot of time to hire such person. Well, fear not. In this episode, I'll detail my exact process to hire amazing candidates without wasting any of your time. You'll hear how I went from dreading the process to actually enjoying hiring. All of this while spending less than 5 minutes per day. Enjoy.
Today I'm going to pick Jeremy's brain on how to hire somebody on Upwork or I think any online job site, right?
Yeah, I think we can focus on Upwork just because there is a big pool of talent that you can get from this website. But, the idea and the process and the strategies just apply to any other one. So you're going to have to figure out if this is the right pool you want to tap into. And I'm going to take the example on Upwork, but it doesn't necessarily have to be Upwork. And I think you got experience too, Jack, in hiring from Upwork as well.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that. And for our cold emailers listening, keep your ears open for ideas, strategies to hire maybe someone who can help you process your inbox, maybe someone who can help you personalize your emails, maybe a VA who can take a lot of the tedious tasks involved with sending outbound and add a new member to your team so you can scale it up.
Maybe we should start with that actually, Jack. What are some of the roles that are easy to outsource in your view? And which one are the ones that are a bit harder that may require some different processes?
Okay, let's start with the easy one. And not only the easy role to hand off, but also the most essential because this role is quite time intensive. It's the list manager. So every time you start with a fresh list of prospects, that each row needs to be cleaned up. You need to check the first name. You need to fix the company name because you're listening. You don't send QuickMail.io, LLC. You clean it up so that everything in that.
Especially it'll be wrong. It's GmbH.
There you go. Whatever that is.
It's not even QuickMail, honestly.
Yeah.
But fair enough.
So the point is you need someone to help you clean up your data. And fortunately, this is a task that can be done at a relatively low hourly rate because you essentially need data entry for somebody who speaks English. And then you can basically hand that off. But what about the harder ones, right? Hardest to hand off, and I haven't even figured this out yet, is the copywriter. Maybe I don't want to ever hand that off. Maybe I'll be doing it until I'm dead. But I think the copywriter owns, so much of the results that before you hand that off, you better be sure that you're working with someone who's a pro.
What about the prospecting side of things? Like, building the list. Do you think you could just be relying on a tool, or do you can actually maybe get, a virtual assistant actually using the tool?
We basically, at my agency, have a couple of tools and scripts that half of them are homemade. The other half are like subscriptions to the well-known business directories. I don't know, Crunchbase, SalesNav, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we're able to pull in things like we even have like a Yelp API scraper that's really handy for finding brick and mortar businesses. So I actually view list building more as a role for a developer. So I may tell a developer on our team, hey, can you please write a scraper that finds companies that match this criteria? And go ahead and use directories if they're there. And if not, if we need to scrape together, I don't know, crawl Google, crawl Yelp, it doesn't matter. I'm almost thinking that's a technical role.
Nice. But it doesn't mean that it can't be outsourced, right?
Oh, no, it is.
You can outsource developers too.
Yeah, no doubt. So that is outsourced to a developer more so than, like, I don't have anybody who just goes one by one looking up companies. I don't even think that's more advantageous. I think there's, like, if you spend time building scrapers, you'll realize that it's not to your, you don't need a dozen virtual assistant standing by to Google stuff for you. Instead, I would probably
Right.
use our tips that we're about to share to have a conversation with someone who's a pro at web scraping in order to start that conversation. And then, full circle, once your developer said, hey, here's 1,200 rows of companies that match our criteria, then you hand that off to the list manager to have them clean it, prep it, and maybe add personalization, but that's probably a different role. But yeah, lots to this hiring process and team building, to be sure.
I think you highlighted very well. There is plenty of opportunities for outsourcing with some part of the process to other people. From the beginning to the end, you mentioned, copywriting being difficult. I'm pretty sure we could probably find some people to outsource copywriting, but
you can.
Obviously, because your level is so high.
I'm one of those people
Exactly.
that people outsource it to. So obviously it can be done. And
Right.
I think we had an interview here with James Schramko, who was like laughing at when I mentioned that it was difficult to hire someone to write content, or maybe it was just a conversation that him and I had, but his point was, pick your favorite brand, AppSumo, for example. He's like, do you think the founders writing those emails you get, don't be so married to each role that you can't hand it off ever, probably is the right direction to head.
Brilliant.
So with that, I will say one last thing, and then I have to ask you all about your hiring process here. But I'm hoping this podcast episode will help you, the listener, figure out what it is that you are uniquely suited to do. Maybe that's build a team, maybe that's write copy, maybe that's list build, and then give everything else to people who are experts in that domain. And that way you'll be happier and more productive. And with that, let's go, man.
Oh, actually, this is our show, so obviously I have to, say something on top. There was an interesting point of view, actually, which is find everything you're doing and then find people who actually do those activities instead of you. So that's a sort of like different school of thoughts, which is by doing that, you free some of your own time so you get time to think of other things versus actually hiring other people to do different things, which then suddenly you're surrounded by too many things to play with. So just a different point of view. Find what works best for you.
Let's say we're picking email copywriting, for example. Do you mean that if I wrote down every single task that I'm doing on a daily basis, and email copywriting was one of them, I can go and hire an email copywriter and be done with that task? Is that the process?
That's the idea. It's like, let's say you're spending 8 hours doing a few things. If you find people to actually execute some of those things, then you free some of your time. That means more time for you, more time to think of other things. And of course, as owners or founders, we're probably going to fill this time with something else. So that way you can keep on delegating while elevating yourself and doing different part of the business. And I think that's the other strategy or approach in delegating. But to center back into how to hire someone that you can use to outsource some of those tasks, I've been hiring people for, data entry, support people, even my developer, which is amazing. And she's a superstar. And I'm like so happy to have her on a team. If she's listening, I hope she's not because she's going to blush. But the point is that it's the same process. It's not really depending on what task. It's really how you're going to structure the process of hiring someone without being submerged by doing it. Like I have some friends who say, oh yeah, this month, no one talks to me. I'm going to go 1 month full in interviewing and recruiting process and so on. And for me, this is just literally a 5-minute task per day max kind of thing because I got this process in place. And hopefully I'm going to help you out with some tips on there.
Yeah, this is a near and dear topic to me because finding good people to work with is an essential stepping stone to freeing yourself of a lot of the tasks you don't want to be doing and probably shouldn't be doing. But just so it's painfully obvious, if you don't nail what Jeremy is about to share, you're going to have a lot of tire kickers, a lot of applicants who are just pure waste of time. At best, at worst, you'll hire them and they will blow up your campaigns in a very bad way because they're just unqualified. They don't have the skills. So I'm going to listen in with both my ears for this because if you master hiring, your job as a outbound campaign manager, agency owner, just founder who wants to get this process streamlined is going to be a lot better. So let's do it.
Yeah, a lot easier, hopefully. And I used to dread this process about like, man, I'm going to have to hire someone. I was just like dreading it. And now I'm actually enjoying it. It's like, yeah, no sweat. Let me just put this online and let it roll.
Okay. So let's start it there.
Should we start?
Yeah. How do you hire somebody effectively on Upwork?
Okay. So I see there are multiple phases. The first one is, and I know most people may not like it, is to write a job spec. Now, the job spec can vary. It doesn't have to be, that long 3-page thing about like all the everything about everything regarding the role. It could be just a simple bullet points, 10 bullet points. That's it. Job done. You put it on Upwork and you open the application. That could work.
Is there anything I need to make sure the job spec has?
Yes. So the focus for this cast is not going to be on how to write a good job spec, because I'm going to tell you, like, most people actually don't read the job spec. And that probably is going to be your first test, making sure people who apply did spend the time to actually read your job spec before applying.
Okay, stupid question, but why does that really matter? Why do you want to make sure that everybody has read the job spec first?
Well, because the job spec for me just highlights what people should know about the job and should be happy to actually do. It's just like, otherwise it happens. People just come up to the job and say,
yeah,
right, what do I need to do? It's like, oh, I need to do that. I wasn't planning on doing that. It's like, oh, no, I don't do this, but I can do that. What, you don't need that? It's just like...
Yeah, fair enough. So it basically needs to filter out people who should be working with. That's step one. So looking at the big picture, I imagine that this whole process that we're about to go through is a series of filters so that you only need to spend time with the candidates, maybe the top 1% of candidates who have shown through this process that they deserve your interview time.
Yes.
That's the goal, right?
Yes, 100%. Now, what we're going to talk here is strategies, tactics on how to filter that, but also how to attract the best one. And this one I got from you, actually.
Oh, cool.
So I really like that.
Awesome. Okay, so how do we make sure, going back to step one, that somebody's read the job spec?
So, okay, step one, you have to figure out what that person's going to do. You put it down. And so as you will keep on hiring and keep on job posting and so on, you can revisit your job spec. So that's an easy way to not get, stopped by, I need to produce like 3 pages of my job spec. Go ahead, try it away. And as you're getting candidates, you kind of think like, okay, well, maybe I should also put that this person needs to be self-motivated or less direction, can work with stress, or, those sort of things that you may not have thought of before when you're writing the job spec. Because for you, your culture, it's obvious. But for someone from the outside, they're going to have to figure out how it is to work with you, what do they need and stuff like that.
So is it safe to say in every one of your job specs, Jeremy, you will must be able to work in a blank environment? Do you put the culture that you're trying to build around in the job spec?
I do, but I test for that as well during the interview. And so we're going to come back to that in the future. But I do definitely highlight some of the key points that people will need to demonstrate in order to be able to be hired.
Okay. So step one, write a job spec.
Oh, yeah. So one example for me, I'm just reading straight from my job spec for a support person. Solving problem of our users with the best solution possible, including workarounds, ability to find workarounds. So that's some of those things like that. So I just put that on. But it's a bullet points. And one of the bullet points, I'm going to insert a challenge that if people don't read, they have no chance whatsoever to actually pass, not even the interview process, but before that, when you actually have an application, you have to answer some answers to some questions. If they didn't read the job spec, they're going to fail at it.
Okay, so we're going to definitely get to where to insert this challenge at some point. But what else do you see in your job spec now that it's pulled up that we can recommend to anyone listening?
All right, one thing, usually this is quite important for outsourcing. It may not be relevant for everyone, but do specify the time zone they will have to work and also the number of hours. Because some people are looking for part-time, some people are looking for full-time. Also, some people are looking for longer-term contracts, preferably. So also, if you do that, do mention that. So for me, I mention needs to be available during certain time zones or certain time. But for you, you may not care, and that's fine too, but then mention it. Like, you can work at your own time. And also an amount of hours you expect that person to work per month so they can figure out how much time they're going to need to put aside to actually work for you.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. So it's just sort of standard. This is what it is. This is when it is. This is how long it is. Okay.
Yeah. The reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of people are asking those questions if you don't put them. So you want to minimize the number of, kind of questions outside of the application kind of thing, or going through the entire application process to realize the guy was only available for part-time.
Okay.
And so,
fair enough.
Sort of things like that help.
It's like you're building an FAQ.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. What's next?
So for me, then the next thing is really you insert the challenges into your application. So I got 2 challenges for different parts of my application. One part is what you need to be successful in this job. And so I list the bullet points again. And a lot of people who are not methodical, which I need, are just going to skip over, not care, and then go apply. And they're going to fail because they don't actually mention it. One of the points I have, so I got lots of things. I have have no problem with internet technologies because I want someone technical and so on. But at some point I mention in those bullet points, ability to follow instructions by entering, insert your secret word, like for me it's koala, when asked about what's your favorite animal. And you can guess.
Okay, say that again. Say that again. Ability to type in koala when asked about your favorite animal?
Almost. Ability to follow instructions by entering koala when asked about your favorite animal. But, you could do like ability to say lacra when asked what is your favorite drink. You're going to make up your own sort of challenge here. The point is that when you're going to have your screening questions, those questions will actually require this type of answer automatically. So my screening question is like, what's your favorite animal?
Right.
And obviously I'm expecting koala. Anything else, 0 time spent on it. I just ignore it.
Fair enough. But I think it's interesting that you didn't just point blank say, must include koala at the top of cover letter to be considered. Because I've seen that, and that's probably the standard qualifier that I'm seeing on Upwork. But this is more subtle. You really have to read every word probably in order to nail this question, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Even if you scan very through quickly,
you won't get
see ability to, you don't care, and then you carry on.
So if you're
That's
listening,
right.
You don't want this challenge question with asterisks and all caps. The idea is to sprinkle it in so that you only graduate those people to the next step who actually read every line of that spec.
Yeah, you have to think that my time is precious. I don't want people to waste it. So if they didn't spend 5 minutes, the effort it takes to actually read my job spec, I certainly don't want to spend any minutes on their application. In the past, when I started hiring on Upwork, which at the time was called Odesk, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
I used something called a secret word. And so part of my screening question was like, what's a secret word? And again, in my job spec, I say the secret word is X. And I find that too many people are now using that. So that's why I'm actually moving. But in the beginning, it was always funny to see, my secret word was, I don't know, let's say...
Please.
Yeah, exactly.
Abracadabra.
You got it. So, my secret word was, I don't know, like... California, whatever kind of thing that has like nothing to do. And then people were like saying, please, thank you, so it's just like easy. But now they get smarter.
So we know how to remove people who didn't read the job spec, but is it safe to move on to, I don't know, call it step 2, which is you're left with this smaller group of applicants that have read and answered.
Almost.
Okay, what are we missing?
Almost. It's not missing. I think it's a matter of preference. Like I mentioned, my time is super precious. I really want only people who genuinely want to join QuickMail and not join QuickMail because, there was a job spec and I applied.
Right.
So one of the way I do that is to actually add a small paragraph at the end to explain how I want them to apply for my job. I literally tell them what I want. And it goes like that. If this sounds like somewhere you can do your best work, please make sure your cover letter mentions nothing more than why you want to work with us instead of another company. Your cover letter should not have more than 10 lines total, and the last character of your cover letter should be the result of 6 plus 3.
6 plus 3.
That's right.
Why do you add that last one in there? Why 6 plus 3?
Because it's easy to spot. Like one of the things that you're going to have to do if you don't want to spend too much time on each applicant that, just botch things, is you need to have visual cue that very quickly tells you this person followed the instructions.
Yeah.
And this person didn't.
Right.
And so if the last character is a 9 for me, that means this person actually genuinely read it. But the funny thing is that because they read it, I want to make sure they also followed it. So for example, in my case, very often I got people putting the 9 at the end, but they talk about themselves and why I should hire them. But that wasn't my question. So again, that's an extra challenge.
Interesting. Okay, so it's about 50% programmatic. Did you follow instructions, by putting the 9? And then the other 50% is how well you wrote in answer to your question of why QuickMail, right?
That's right. If I don't see the 9, I don't spend time on it. If I see the 9, I do spend time on it.
Brilliant. Okay.
The goal is, and I've been timing that up, I spend literally 5 seconds per application. And so that's including total, like I find this is not including the koala word, I reject them.
Right.
I find this is not the 9 word, the 9 character, I reject them. If I find koala and the 9, then I spend a bit more time and it's going to be like 10 seconds, but still okay.
You're going to write a script that just counts if 10 lines and 9 last character and koala here, then send to my inbox.
If you manage to build me a script on Upwork, I'm down for that.
Sure. I think you could probably do a simple, like, you know how it emails you every time you get a new applicant? Yeah, it would be interesting to pull in the cover letter, but I'm sure...
But think of that, this is a typical, like, coder trap. I'm going to spend, like, 6 hours automating something that takes me, like, 5 seconds, literally.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So now I appreciate the visual checkpoints. Not so much the fact that you can write a script, but that's neat, I will say. Okay, right. Take us through. So now we have a group of everyone who followed directions. How much weight does that cover letter hold if they followed it?
Zero.
They just have to say, QuickMail looks cool, your logo's awesome.
Literally, koala means they read it. Okay, they read it fully. The 9 is they're able to show me the follow instruction.
And they can do math.
And exactly, they can do math. That's a good one. The other one is just making sure that they understand what is requested from them.
Interesting.
Which is, I want you to tell me why you want to join QuickMail. And of course, sometimes I get moved in a good way. Yeah. That means like someone really say like, hey, I used to work at a company that was also doing cold email. I really enjoyed it. I think this is really my jam. That's why I really want to join QuickMail and so on. Of course, I'm going to pay attention to that. But otherwise, whatever they say is like, okay, that's fine. Whatever.
Okay.
Everyone's got their own reason.
All right. Fair enough.
And I want to add one more thing is that in the screening process, I just don't have those 2 questions. I have 3 questions. The first one is, tell me what's your best quality. And the funny thing is I never ever read this one. The only reason why there is this question is because the second one is asking them about their favorite animal. And because they got this first question about themselves, their guard is down and they actually answer it, straight.
Wow.
And you wouldn't believe, sometimes I have like, sir, I select elephant because elephant is massive and it has lots of strength. And it's, from a very young age, I really loved elephant. People tell me their life and they don't spend 3 seconds reading the job spec. Anyway, this is just my small rant.
Have you ever heard there's some psychology research that says in so many words that the harder it is to join a group, think like fraternity hazing, the more... Yes. Content you are, the more valuable you will find the membership.
That's right.
And I'm just wondering, the more blocks and hurdles you put in your job application process, I wonder if there's a hidden benefit of having happier employees. Maybe.
Happier, I don't know, but definitely prouder. They're proud to have passed the process and managed to do it. And I think this is also part of what happened at Google, because the interview process is so tough. Whoever actually make it is their badge of honor kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So look,
now we're ready to move on.
Well, yeah, but I was going to say, let's say we nailed these, secret questions and the job spec, and what pain points come up? Because it sounds like we've done a good job filtering. What if we just stopped here?
You could, but then you're going to spend a lot of time scheduling interviews because at the end, I want to speak with that person. I don't want to hire people. And bear in mind, that may actually change for you. You may actually not want to even have a conversation with them as long as they're able to follow. You can straight move to, test, especially if this is data entry. I used to hire people for $3, $4 an hour, and all they were doing is just filling me a spreadsheet. That's fine. I don't really need them to, have a conversation with them and stuff like that, as long as they produce the amount of work I need. So I can give them a test straight away. But for, especially like, customer support, a developer and stuff like that, they have to be an interview for me.
Okay. So if you're listening and you're hiring a role that's around $5 an hour, probably don't worry about interviewing these people. Instead, my recommendation is hire 2 or 3 of them and then give them a task and see who wins, right?
That's right. Just like it's going to cost you $20.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did, actually. I hired like probably 5, 6. And every week I was just, killing one.
And you did this for a $5 an hour type task, right? Not a big one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, we're going to leave it here for today. There are a lot of things to unpack already, and hopefully you should have a good idea of how to start already now. So we'll resume with part 2 next week, where Jack and I will be sharing a few more tactical things when it comes to hire your next virtual assistant. Until then, have fun and enjoy your week.
Hey, cold emailer.
Yeah, you.
If you got some value from this episode, give us a high five by sharing a 2-sentence review on iTunes.
Or Stitcher, or TuneIn. That works too.
It's a quick way to help other growth-minded folks like us find this podcast
so they can send awesome emails
and make everyone's inbox a better place. Thanks.